What's up, everyone? Hopefully my computer doesn't overheat here. Oh my goodness, I don't have my overlays up. What's going on there? Come on. I don't need the chat. Hope you're all doing great. I am. Again, did not plan on streaming today, but I thought something came up that was needed to be addressed. And unfortunately, I feel like I'm probably the best person to address it, which is unfortunate. Oh my goodness. So we'll talk. We will talk. We'll give people a chance to come in here, though, because I think my opening statement on this will probably be important because, I guess what can I do? I can't just sit here forever, so I'll just start talking and people will filter in when they can, and I'll reiterate this message. But I do think if you watch my live stream yesterday, that one unique thing that I, as small a streamer as I am, maybe could have a real world impact on is trying to continue to heartfelt tell people that I really, really, really do not want to see violence. I don't want to, even the people I despise, who I will talk about some of them today, I don't want any violence to occur to them or anything really bad to happen or anything like that. And I think that it's important when you're talking about difficult subjects like this and shit that really fires people up, myself included, very fired up about the topic of today, that we admit that there's no excuse, even with these high stakes, to engage in any sort of personal violence. So I'm going to continue to hammer that message home, and I know it's going to sound callous and like I'm just repeating it because I feel I have to, but I swear to you, all honesty, that I strongly, strongly, strongly feel that way. And I'm trying to not fly off the handle at some people that maybe deserve to be excoriated as much as maybe I would have done in the past. Though I'm going to break that rule today because this one's really got me fired up. Now, first let me admit to a complete bias, and that bias is that both rationally and irrationally, because of relationships I have with people or things I like about people, I'm more forgiving to some people than others. So let me give you an example. If you're a sports fan, if someone's on your team and they do something crappy, you might be more willing to give them leniency than if they play for the rival's team. Now, I know what we're talking about here is not quite so simple as playing for one sport team or the other, but there are people that I like and people that I enjoy sparring with that I'm more favorable to, maybe others that I don't. That's not entirely fair, that's not entirely rational, but it's true. And I think most humans are like that, and so I'm just trying to be honest with that. So, for example, some of the incredibly heinous things that left-wing streamer Destiny's been saying, I personally think he's edgelording and he's trying to tell shitty jokes. I think they're disgusting. I think people have every right to call them out. But I am not convinced that he's specifically calling for violence against me or against any Trump supporter or against Trump himself. I may change my mind on that, but that's where I'm at now. Do I mind people that have came to that conclusion based on the heinous things he said? No. But that's my honest opinion. So I'm not going to relitigate that. But I just thought that it's worth saying because you might say, well, the people that you're going to be hammering today isn't what Destiny said worse. Maybe. Yeah, he was laughing at the victims. That's not necessary. That's not a call to violence. But anyways, I just wanted to get that out there. One other thing I'll say in a brief moment of arrogance. Yes, I want a big audience. Yes, I want to move the needle politically. Yes, I want people to look to me and say, that guy's one of the good ones. That guy's someone who's a hell of a debater, who's an ethical person who's helping move the country in the right direction. Yes, I want all of that. I do. But I don't mind if I'm not the big dog. I don't mind that. I don't mind if there was 10 people with way bigger audience than me doing what I do that are just indisputably better than me. They're better at arguing. Daniel in the chat there says, Rob, thanks for sticking up to Destiny the other day when he was trying to bully the lady for not knowing the full facts of January 6th. Yeah, I'm at work, and I get people messaging me, Rob, you got to get on this space because Destiny's basically crushing these people. That's what I'm saying. I would be more than happy that someone else do that. I'd be okay with that. I'm fine with that. But there's not a lot of people that do it, or that do it well. So I sort of sometimes feel obligated. Like, well, if not me, then who? Who's going to do it? Who's articulate enough to push back on this stuff? I don't care if it's me. It could be someone else. I'm totally fine. But who is it? And who am I? I'm no one. I'm fucking no one. I have no connections to anyone. I work 80 fucking 90 hours a week. I have a family. I do this as a hobby. And sometimes I feel like, shit, I have to do these responses. Because I don't know that there are many people that are doing them. So I'll keep plugging away, but understand the immenseness of what all of us are up against. But me in this little circle that we inhabit of these online debate sphere, I talk to people that have tens of thousands of people watching them per live stream, hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. And then there's me. I got less than 5,000 followers on X. I get 50 to 80 people that watch me do live streams. I have no time to prepare. I'm not paid by anyone. And I'm trying my best to fight back. Every time I put a post on X that's against a larger streamer, I'm going to get ratioed. Every time. Every time. Because I'll have 5 of my supporters that see my claim, and then whoever I'm talking to will have 100,000 people that see their claim. It is what it is. I'm not saying, oh, woe is me. It's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I wish someone that was better, that had a bigger reach, was making these arguments. That's what I'm saying. I'm limited for lack of my talent in promoting myself, and because I'm busy and I got all this other shit going on, my reach is incredibly limited. That's why I like the opportunity to spar with some of these bigger people like Destiny, because even if his audience hates me and they think I'm a fucking idiot, at least my message is being heard, because most of the time that's not the case, or it's being heard very limited. Anyways, enough of that shit. I digress. Now, anyone who's been following me since the sort of assassination attempt on Trump has known that although I am partisan, and though I am pushing what I think this means politically and how terrible things have been in the attacks on Trump, I think I've been more reserved than most conservative commentators. I really do. For example, I did not make the comment that I saw over the internet. Why did it take Biden so long why was he one of the last people that was a Democrat to issue a statement sort of condemning? I'd think that's fine if you made that argument, but there's bigger fish to fry for me. I didn't make that argument. I didn't even strongly go in on the argument that, yes, the rhetoric that we saw coming from the left and from the anti-Trump people caused this. I've mentioned the rhetoric. I mentioned how I think we should be careful, but I was very clear that I'm not blaming streamers if they said something and someone unhinged did it. I've said it over and over again. Strategically, if I was just interested in helping my side win, I'd be spiking the ball. I'd be out here saying, all week I would have been like, here's a quote that Biden made. Oh, that means he led to this. Now, I have said things like, look, my standard is when Biden says put a bullseye on Trump, clearly he doesn't mean he wanted Trump to be physically attacked, which I still believe. But why should my standard matter? The Democrat standard was when Trump said fight like hell, that was legal to be used in court cases to prove that he meant use violence. So it's not my standard that matters. Why shouldn't they be held to that standard? Why not investigate Biden then? Now, of course, I don't believe that Biden was saying bullseye because he wanted Trump targeted like that. Just like I don't believe Trump saying fight like hell meant that he wanted people to engage in physical violence. I'm consistent. I can't sell out. I can't grift. I have a fucking conscience. I have bias, and maybe that bias clouds my judgment at times. And you might say, if you're a lefty watching, but Rob, the fake elector scheme was so obvious that Trump was trying to overthrow the government, and why can't you see that? I'm giving you my honest opinions on it, that I think it was a legal challenge. You might think that I'm biased beyond fucking reasonability. That's fine, that's your right. Maybe it's true. I don't think so. I certainly am biased, but I don't think it's any more than the average person. And I try to limit it as much as possible and give truthful answers. But what I can't do is sit here and blatantly lie to people so my side wins. What I can't do is to just say I have to be untruthful to people so I can spike the ball and help my side cross the finish line. I can't do that. And I am aware that many of the people that I spar with do not share that same limitation. They will lie right to your fucking face. They don't give a shit. Winning is all that matters because they feel morally superior. They feel that their opponents are inferior, scum-sucking insurrectionist supporters, or racist, or nationalist, or insert whatever. I said racist twice. Go figure. So they don't give a shit. Hey, if we have to lie to beat the racist, if we have to lie to beat the insurrection, so be it. They're evil. That's how they feel. So they don't give a shit. They'll lie with a smile on their face. Ends justify the means. I can't do that. I can't. And it limits. Now, it's worth it. It's worth, because at the end of the day, as I say all the time, I have to live with myself. I have to look at myself in the mirror. So all I can do is be authentic. That's it. That's all I could do. I can't fucking blatantly lie to you. I can't. And in many ways, that's a disadvantage. If one side is filled with people that are like, we will blatantly lie and gaslight, and we don't give a shit. And if we're caught, we'll say, we don't care. We'll keep gaslighting. We don't care. The old Shaggy defense, right? Caught you banging in the bathroom. Wasn't me. Nope, I didn't lie. What, cognitive decline? Where? I don't see that in Biden. Huh? It shows an incredible lack of character of these people, but it's powerful argumentatively. And when you have all of the institutional advantages already, almost the entirety of the people that control our narrative are on your side. Mainstream media, social media, corporate America, politics. And then some of these people I'm personally interacting with have hundreds of thousands of followers. And they do this full time. And it's their job. And they have 8 hours a day to just research stuff or to come up with arguments. With all of those advantages, and you're still like, and we don't give a shit. We'll blatantly lie. We don't give a fuck. What an incredible task it is for little old me, less than 5,000 X followers, working 90 hours a week, have a family, who does this as a fucking hobby, who's not some genius, who's a home healthcare worker, redneck. That's who I am. Me, I'm going to go up and I'm going to challenge that. That's what I'm going to do. Unless people think that I have some sort of superiority complex, just ask them. Ask someone like Destiny, who's the best person you debate on the right? Ask them. They all know it. They all fucking know it. They know. Now, I'm not putting myself in a category of great debaters that we've seen, like a Christopher Hitchens, or someone that like a Ben Shapiro. I'm not saying Ben Shapiro is a better debater than me, but clearly he's on a different scale of what he's doing. He's not really in the trenches in the same way like me, arguing with these people. But I just want to illustrate that point. that despite all of the disadvantages I have, I don't give a shit. My argument versus your argument. So what? You have 40,000 times more followers than me. Who gives a shit? My argument versus your argument. Who gives a shit? You get to do it full time. You have time to prep. I don't. Who cares? No excuses. But with all of those advantages, they still have that one advantage. We have no conscience. We feel morally superior. We could lie right to your fucking face. We don't care. I'm not saying they all blatantly do that, but that's the advantage they have. That's the advantage when you feel the ends justify the means and you're morally superior. That's the advantage that you hold. It'll bite you in the ass. It makes you a shitty person, and that'll catch up with you. But as far as each individual argument, it's difficult to overcome. That brings me to today. Now, hopefully my computer doesn't overheat. I would have done this on my phone because my computer here at the office is shit and it overheats. But I need to bring up quotes. And I can't do that in my phone. I feel I've laid the groundwork. I'm against violence. I feel I've laid the groundwork. I'm about to talk about something that's going to piss me off and probably piss you off, and it should. Please don't go do anything unhinged. Please don't say anything unhinged. I've explained how, even though I think that the rhetoric's been irresponsible, I have not pointed to Democrats and said, your rhetoric directly caused this. In fact, not only that, what I said previously, I fully admitted day one, I've no idea who this shooter is. He could very well be a right-wing white supremacist. He could be a average Republican like Paul Ryan type voter that hates Trump. He could just be some unhinged schizophrenic that it has nothing to do with politics why he targeted Trump. He could be a radical Antifa. I don't know. I still don't know. And to be quite clear, most people don't. I think it's obvious he wanted to get Trump. I think it's obvious that rhetoric surrounding Trump could reasonably draw the conclusion that that didn't help, that it led to people being radicalized against Trump. I think there's an awful lot of people that are saying an awful lot of shitty stuff, like they wish Trump would have been taken out, and that's not helpful. But I can't say that comments, these sorts of comments directly led to what happened. I can't say it, and I haven't. Okay? Everyone got the groundwork? Okay. Let me ask the audience a question. Give me the top 2 or 3 of the worst smears you could put on someone in our country today. In other words, if I wanted to accuse someone of the worst possible thing, I would say this person is a... And what would that be? Give me the top answers that you think would be the most damaging to them. Does anyone have any thoughts on this? That would be right near the top. Someone who assaults children. But I'm not even sure that's number 1. So we don't have to talk about that one. Give me another. That's certainly true. It depends on who you're talking to. But I'm talking in the aggregate. On average. A racist. Yep. A racist. Traitor. Come on. A racist is right up there. But what if you had to name a specific group of racists, that if it came out that you were of this group, what is the most damaging one you could think of? It's 4 letters. This person is a... It would be unrecoverable if true in our society. That's right, Anon. That's right. A Nazi. They're a Nazi. That's it. There is nowhere in polite society, whether you're a gas station attendant or a politician or anything in between, that would be recoverable from. It is the worst smear that you could put. Even child assaulter is probably less damaging because Nazi is so ingrained in our public ideology as so damaging and unforgivable that, my God, to be one is beyond the pale. You're drummed out of everywhere in polite society. So much so that we have serious conversations. I would go so far as to say that not only reasonable people, but maybe literally half the people in our country, if truly asked, would say, yes, it's okay to punch a Nazi. Remember when we had, is it okay to punch a Nazi? People I know that are reasonable are like, yeah. But it's like, but wait, just because you don't like someone's ideology, no matter how heinous. No. That's how stigmatizing to be called a Nazi is. So if you had a coworker that you don't like, and they were up for a promotion that you wanted, and you photoshopped them in a Nazi rally with Nazi flags, it would be among the most heinous things you could do. Oh, no. You all are wrong. The term Nazi is overused, so it's lost its meaning. No. That might be true for example, if someone said, Rob, you're a Nazi right now, you would say, I would be less likely to believe it because it was overused. But if I was, the impact of that is just as bad as it would have been 10 years ago. So when you're saying it's overused, the meaning to that is, well, people don't take the accusation as serious because it's been overused. But the implications of actually being a Nazi are not overblown. I'm not overblowing that. That's right, only if they could prove it. So if you're that person who intentionally photoshops your coworker you don't like, that's amongst the most heinous things you could do. Because if you're able to convince people of the lie, you have put a target on them that will literally ruin their life and make it unrecoverable. That's my point. That's why that accusation is so heinous. I think Dustin that's in here, Dustin Babola, I think is probably, from comments I've seen in the past, probably a Democrat. Maybe there's other Democrats watching. If you could answer this question, by all means. And other people could answer it as well. If you truly believed the President of the United States was a Nazi, what would you do? What would be justified? Truly he was a Nazi. I don't mean, it's being, okay, horseshit. But if he truly was, if you truly believed it, what would be on the table? The time machine, right. Yeah, that's a good point. We know the answer. You know it. Political actions first. So let me tell you a story about Charlottesville. I used to be on this website called Above Top Secret. It was a conspiracy site, but it ended up kind of sort of shifting into just politics, and that's what I talked about. I wasn't big on a lot of the conspiracies, but I talked a lot about politics. And so you get to know characters. Most people are using anonymous names, and they have avatars, pictures and stuff. So as you're day to day arguing with some of these people, you get to know them as sort of these characters in your head. You know, this guy's name's like Garfield 84, and he's got a picture of, you know, the cat Garfield. And you're like, oh, okay. And you resonate. You almost put your own tone to them. Like, my inner monologue when I'm reading this stuff has a voice that I've made up for them. It's not just anonymous people online to me. It's people who I'm interacting with day to day, and even though I don't know their name, I'm starting to learn about them. I can see the arguments they've made. Yeah, Grambler, that was my name on there. So there was this person on there who went by the name True Brit something. Now I, just like today, it was easy to smack around randos that didn't know what they were talking about. But there was a certain cast of people on there who were effective people at arguing left-wing perspectives. I thought I was better, but nonetheless I would say, okay, this person's responding. It's going to be a back and forth. One of these people was this True Brit person, who I believe was a communist, I can't remember. But despite disagreements, I enjoyed interacting with this person because they challenged me. Unlike most of the people that just one-lines and... So after Charlottesville, and we're going to get specifically to Charlottesville, but after it, True Brit takes to and starts saying some crazy shit. And basically the argument they make in public, on a public forum, is as follows. Look, Trump's clearly a Nazi. His supporters are clearly Nazi sympathizers. And all options should be on the table to keep them from power. So I start going back and forth. I'm like, what do you mean all options? You know what I mean. I'm like, no, spell it out. Well, first, politically, we try to keep them out of power. Okay, but let's say that doesn't work. Trump's president, after all. Let's say it looks like he's going to win again in 2020. Now what would you do? Well, clearly, based on how much power they could get, the measure of the response increases. Is violence on the table? Yes. Against Trump? Yes, if it means stopping him from winning in 2020. Against his supporters? Yes, if it means that would prevent them from enacting what they want. And what level of violence? Well, as much that would be needed to stop them. I said, okay, you punch a couple of them. And this isn't verbatim, but it's basically, this is how the back and forth's going. I say, you punch a couple of them, it's not changing. What are you willing to do? Are you willing to execute them? And he says, yes! Given the situation where I'm afraid that they would obtain power, yes, we may have to take them out. And I'm fucking stunned. That's 70 million people. At least. And this dude is blatantly, he feels comfortable to be in an online forum, talking to me, who sparred with him back and forth many, many times, like, yeah, we may have to execute you and everyone you know. There's moderators on this channel. Now, I'm not saying, hey, remove these posts, but I'm like, holy shit. You got, everybody cool with this? This is on this site right now? You cool with this? And everyone's like, well, he's not directly calling for violence. He's saying, given the hypothetical situation where Nazis would come into power, we would need to kill them. And I was like, but he's saying Trump is a Nazi and Trump supporters. And he's saying they are in power. And he's saying we must do everything to stop them winning in 2020. Now, this is very similar. I talked about this yesterday when I go on J-Stock's panel. And I'm like, hey, can we have a framework that says we have to condemn... A non-starter is someone saying, actually, I hope that my political opponent is assassinated. That's a non-starter. Fuck you, no. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. I don't give a shit. No. That is outside the scope of the framework of what we should entertain in a debate. That's it. And I say, so if Destiny, for example, is saying he wanted Trump to be taken out, fuck him. If he's just telling edgelord jokes, that's different. Your mileage may vary. You say, too late, I don't care. But to me, there's a huge difference in edgelord jokes or saying, haha, the Trump supporter died, I don't give a shit, versus, yes, I want them to be taken out. There's a huge difference there. And I say this, and Jay Stock's like, well, you know, if he just says that he wishes that bullet would have killed Trump, that's not bad. Now, as long as he's saying he doesn't want another person to attempt, what the fuck are you talking about? How is this hard? No! Assassination attempt's wrong! That's it! What the fuck society are we living in? But Rob, Joe Biden's an incredible threat and menace. He might destroy the... No! I would never call for violence against him, period! If there was an attempt on his life, I would be appalled. I would call it out in the strongest possible terms. I wouldn't say, well, this isn't difficult. Again, let me remind you all, please Don't go out and do anything extreme or say that vengeance needs to be brought against these people. I understand that it's frustrating. You could tell I'm a little heated. But please, the violent rhetoric, the violent actions, all of this is morally unjustified and you will fuck up your life. Don't do it. There's more important things. But my God. Now we come to Joe Biden. We repeatedly hear about lies that Donald Trump told. Tens of thousands of lies he's told during his administration. Where did I get that number from? Well, you had left-wing journalists who had fact-checkers that would fact-check every single statement Trump made. Of course, those fact-checkers quit when Biden got into the office. They don't do that anymore. And so it leads to things like being gaslit during the debate. Well, okay, Biden's, optically looked bad, but at least he told the truth, unlike Trump, who just lied. Biden says it in his interview with Lester Holt yesterday. Why are you focused on my cognitive abilities? Why didn't you call out Trump's lies? Why didn't they call out your lies, Joe? Which were frequent, as I talked about in the show. Just because the big story was your cognitive decline doesn't mean that you were truthful when you were able to muddle through and mumble yourself into statements that people could coherently understand. No, you were lying many of the times then as well. But there are different types of lies. There are lies like, hey, does this shirt make me look fat? No, man, you look all right. Some kid's got some terminal illness. You're going to make it through just fine. Maybe you know that's not the truth. It's a lie. I caught the biggest fish you've ever seen. It's a lie. Yeah, I'll pay you back next Tuesday. Lie. You understand how there's different types of lies and different severity levels? It's the biggest crowd anyone's ever had. It's a lie. No one respects women more than me. It's a lie. We have the greatest economy the world has ever seen. It's a lie. My opponent's deficit was the worst the country's ever seen. It's a lie. Now, we could quibble, is it a lie if you believe it? You get what I'm saying. None of that shit's good. Sometimes you could directionally be true, like, okay, Biden's deficit wasn't the highest ever, but his debt level is. Still technically not true when you said deficit, but it's not a lie in the sense of like, oh my God, it's like the lowest debt and deficit ever, and he said it was the biggest. No, it's... But I don't mind the left calling that out. It's fair game. Yeah, if it's not true, it's not true. Call it out. Those are lies. All of the lies combined fails to live up to the damage of the most core and central lie that represents everything Joe Biden's presidency stands for, that he repeats over and over and over and over and over again. And the reason this lie is so damaging and so terrible is that, one, it is easily disprovable, and yet still the lie is repeated. Second, the amount of people that believe the lie, including, or at least espouse the lie, including from people in positions of power like Biden himself, the mainstream media, the Democratic Party, matriculating down to millions of people believing this lie. Millions. 3, it is because Biden said it was literally the reason for him running for president. So it is central to him. It is the reason that he's running. And it's a lie. And lastly, because as we have said, this lie is amongst the most heinous things that you could label someone. Joe Biden has claimed since 2020 that the reason that he ran for office was the Fine People hoax. A hoax that was perpetuated on the American people by almost every institution in this country, led by the mainstream media, that said that Donald Trump called Nazis fine people. I argued breathlessly at the time how damaging this lie was, how easily refutable it was. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. The lie took hold. Now, there are other lies that were similarly egregious. Trump said to inject bleach. He did not. How many times have you seen me on this channel? Someone will come in my chat. Oh, like when Trump said to drink bleach. Trump didn't say to drink bleach. Let's go through the quote. Okay, he didn't say to drink it. He said inject it. Trump didn't say to inject bleach. Can you show me the word bleach? Well, he said disinfectant, and disinfectant's a synonym for bleach. That's not true. There are other disinfectants, including medical disinfectants, included some that are used that are injected. Well, but it's clear that he was talking about bleach there. No, they were specifically talking about UV light to be injected in the body, which is a disinfectant, which is most likely what he was talking about. Well, nonetheless, he was telling people to take unapproved medical treatments. No, he wasn't. He was saying it would be interesting if medical scientists looked into that. He didn't tell anyone to take any sort of treatment. Well, he said Nazis were good people. That's how that conversation goes 95% of the time. But even that, as damaging as that lie was, doesn't rise to the level. What would you do? What would you do if you thought the President of the United States was a guy saying Nazis are good people? That you were told Nazis just overtook this town of Charlottesville. And they beat these innocent people, many of them women. Just innocent people saying, we don't like Nazis, we're here protesting. And the evil Nazis went, rah, and beat the shit out of them. And then ran over one of them with a car, murdering her. And Trump saw that and went, yes, these Nazis are good. What would you do? Because that's what millions of people in this country believe. They believe that. Joe Biden says, that was the moment I said, I'm running for president. And that's the narrative that stuck. Never mind. You could go right to where he said that. You can go right to the transcript, as we will here shortly. And you can see, he clearly says there are fine people on both sides and bad people on both sides. Clearly, I'm not talking about the Nazis, the racists, they should be condemned. Could not be more clear. Doesn't matter. The narrative stuck. The truth is irrelevant. You remember when I said, what I can't do to you in good conscience is blatantly lie to you? They don't give a fuck. They say we're better than Trump. Trump's a threat to our power. Or Trump's an evil person. So fuck it. If we have to lie, so be it. Yeah, people that I think are smart bought the lie. Now, given that, it would have been the easiest thing in the world, once there was an assassination attempt on Trump, for me to come on here and say, listen, the fact that Joe Biden literally said the reason he was running for office was gaslighting the American people, just like Democrats had for years, to the fact that millions of people legitimately think that the dude that was president and is the frontrunner for being president in the future is a fucking Nazi. They legitimately believe it. So, of course, even if it wasn't this specific person, inevitably someone will say, my God, I have to stop Hitler. Which is why I went hard at Lonerbox there on X when he said, at what point after the assassination, at what point should we have assassinated Hitler? You don't see what you're gaslighting people? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, Trump's Hitler, and oh, shouldn't we have taken Hitler out? That's what Vosh does. So, does that mean there can't be people that want to harm Trump for other reasons? No, of course not. Does that mean that this would-be assassin, murdering sack of shit, listened to Biden's statement and that's why he did it? I have no proof of that. What I'm saying is, you can't be shocked if you're telling millions of people that and they believe it. You can't be shocked. Inevitably, something like that's going to happen. Dustin says, did Joe say Trump said our Nazis are good people, not that he himself's a Nazi? You don't see the absurdity of that? We could just go back to my debate that I talked about on Above Top Secret to quickly dispense with this sort of argumentation. I said, True Brit, isn't it possible that I support Trump because I don't believe he's a Nazi? And he said, and I said, I'm certainly not a Nazi. And he said, no, he is a Nazi. And if you support Nazis, then you're a Nazi. And now we'll get to the... Can you explain why Trump had dinner with Fuentes? Yes, I can explain that simply. Because he doesn't think Fuentes is a Nazi. Now, can you explain why so many people in the Congressional Black Caucus, including Barack Obama, met and spoke highly of Louis Farrakhan, a radical black nationalist whose organization's been accused of killing people? Are we going to play this game? Why doesn't the Democrats have to disavow that one of the biggest white nationalists in the country, Richard Spencer, is an avowed Democrat who's supporting Joe Biden? I just saw him on the Crucible on Tim Pool's show the other day saying it. And I don't even know the circumstances. He had dinner with Kanye and Kanye brought Fuentes. Okay. I will guarantee at some point in my life, I fucking palled around with someone who's a despicable racist. I didn't know it. But you could probably, there's a picture of Rob at the bar. See this guy in the background that he's clinking a beer with? Well, we found out that guy was posting on Stormfront, and he's a horrible fucking Nazi. Rob hung out with a Nazi. What the fuck? You don't see? So he thinks a Nazi's a good person. Do you think Obama's a good person? But Obama thinks that Louis Farrakhan, who's a black nationalist, basically Nazi's a good person. So if you think that Obama, who thinks that a basic black nationalist Nazi is a good person, doesn't that mean that Barack Obama is basically a black nationalist Nazi? And doesn't that mean you supporting him means that you're supporting a black nationalist Nazi? Isn't that what that means? See this game? Isn't that fun? Maybe your employer should be called, oh my God, ex-Ghost is supporting black nationalist Nazis, right? You see how the game works? Oh, and you haven't disavowed yet. You haven't disavowed. That's weird. Ex-Ghost, I talked about black nationalists. You just said you don't think Obama's a good person, but I noticed you didn't say that you think he's a Nazi and you disavow Nazis. Isn't that weird? It doesn't matter if I assume you're a lefty or not. Again, you had another chance to disavow and you didn't. You're making excuses. You're equivocating. Man, I'm starting to get concerned. If you ask me if I'm a Nazi or if I support Nazis, I would say no, but you haven't yet. Why? Why have you gone through comment after comment without disavowing Nazis? Huh? Starting to really add up here. That's the shit they did with Trump. There's clips of 40-something times going into the 2020 election that Trump disavowed white nationalists and Nazis. And yet still, at the debate, will you disavow Nazis? Why won't you just disavow them? Anyways, stop wasting my time there. Of course. When Democrats do things like that, if they're never held to that account. Give me 1 second here. I have to take this call. Okay. So that's what Biden did. Now, having said that, I didn't say, it would have been the easiest thing in the world, like I said, to say Biden ran on this hoax. It clearly inflamed people to the point where a reasonable person could say, yeah, if people legitimately think the president's a Nazi, they might work themselves into a frenzy and do something violent. But I didn't do it. Biden comes out and says unity. Do I believe that Biden means unity? Let's talk about this for a second. I don't know. Do I believe Trump means unity? I don't know. I think that Biden's part of an establishment. He doesn't know where he's at, so people are writing his speeches for him. And I think he's part of an establishment that wants to take Trump out at all costs. I don't know that this specifically means, I don't think the most effective way to do that is through physical violence. I think they're going to use lawfare, smearing his name and shit like that. So I'm not definitively saying that these people set up this attempt. I'm not saying that. I don't see evidence of that at this point. But they're willing to do damn near anything. That's certainly true. But there's a good chance that Biden really is calling for unity. And even if it's just a political ploy, so what? You'd say the same about Trump. I don't mind a leftist saying, I think Trump's full of shit when he says unity now. Yeah, he's saying it because it politically helps him. Could be. Fine. Motivations aside, they're both calling for unity. Okay. We could be cynical for the sake of argument about both. We don't believe either of them. Fuck them. But that's what they have to say. Let me go further. I think it's absurd to think that somehow Democrats have to have a moratorium on criticizing Trump because of this attempt. In other words, I've seen people saying, can you believe not 48 hours after this attempt and Democrats are already saying that Trump would be a danger to the country? Yeah. What do you expect them to do? Oh, our bad. Our opponent had an assassination attempt. We're just going to curl up and concede the election now. Now, you might want to tamp down the rhetoric. You might not want to say, oh, he's a danger to democracy. But saying, hey, we think he'd be real bad for the country, whatever. I didn't. Show me once on social media on my face. I didn't clutch my pearls. I was like, yeah, I expect it. Strategically, there's ways to go about it that I think would be better than what the Biden team's done. But I'm not offended. Yeah. We still think this dude's really bad. It's tragic that this happened. My God, we wish him the best. We wish him to live a long, healthy life under the next Biden administration. Because that'll be how everyone thrives in this country. That's fine. So everyone gets, I didn't jump on this bandwagon. This is Joe Biden's fault. I didn't jump on that bandwagon. I didn't even say that. But if there's another attack on Trump, blood is on Joe Biden's hands.
First reaction.
As disastrous as this interview with Lester Holt was last night, this was the icing on the cake.
You were in Delaware when this happened. What was your first reaction?
My first reaction?
Sorry, my headphones aren't plugged in. Well, that's a necessity.
You were in Delaware when this happened. What was your first reaction?
My first reaction was, my God, look, there's so much violence now, the way we talk about it. I mean, the whole notion that there is this, there's no place at all for violence in politics in America. None. Zero. And we've reached a point where it's become too commonplace, not assassinations, but to talk about it. For example, the January 6th, the attack on the Capitol. Lester, I got in this race early on in 2020 for the 2020 race. I wasn't going to run again because I lost my son. I didn't feel, and until I watched what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. those folks coming out of the woods with torches, carrying swastikas, singing the same Nazi bile. It was accompanied by this Ku Klux Klan, and a young woman was killed. And it was a bystander. And the then president was asked, what do you think? He said, they're very fine people on both sides. Not fine people on both sides. No excuse, zero.
Fuck you, Joe Biden. Fuck you. I let it go. I didn't come on here and say Biden's responsible for this assassination attempt. But after it, when you're saying we need unity, we need to tone down the rhetoric, I forgive you saying, but we think Trump would be a danger to this country. That's fine. I didn't even flip out when you said we think he would destroy democracy. I think that's irresponsible, but I didn't comment on it. But to intentionally spread the worst fucking hoax in the history of this country that's been spread on a platform like this, and how damaging it was, how it fucked up so many people on the left, who now millions of people think Trump's a Nazi sympathizer, and to come out after he was shot and someone was murdered by a would-be assassin and say, oh, well, let me remind you again, Lester, when you specifically asked me about that assassination attempt, that Trump basically said Nazis were fine people. Fuck you. Give me 1 second. Just 1 second. Okay. Fine. Fuck Joe Biden. Sorry, it's inexcusable. That's inexcusable. He knows that Trump didn't say Nazis are good people. The media knows it. The Democrat knows it. He knows that they will gaslit millions of people to believing it. He knows that he's calling for unity. He knows Trump just got an assassination attempt. He could come out and say, look, yeah, there's been a lot of heated rhetoric on both sides. I think Trump's a terrible president. I don't think he's necessarily a moral man, but my God. But no, he intentionally spreads this hoax and lie, knowing that we're in a country, not only when there was an assassination attempt, but a cursory look at social media will show you huge swaths of people saying, I don't know, maybe I wish that bullet would have hit. And that's what you're going to say in that environment. Now you might say, well, that's really bad, Rob, but cooler heads will prevail. Surely this was universally condemned by would-be Democratic voters, especially those who have criticized Trump's rhetoric. Right? Hell, I'm not even saying they'll say, I'm not going to vote for Biden, but they might say, yeah, that was massively irresponsible. I still think Trump's worse. I'll still vote for Biden. But my God. What do you think the chances of that are? I haven't seen one. I haven't seen one Democrat that I know say, holy shit, what? Most of them believe the hoax. If you had to guess, what percentage of Democratic voters thinks Nazis, or Trump said Nazis are fine people? If you had to guess, 80%? Here's how it goes, right? Trump said Nazis are good people. No, he didn't. Let me show you the quote. 80% of them never got to see the quote. They just know that it was repeated verbatim, including by their president. Trump said Nazis are good people. Trump said Nazis are good people. Trump said Nazis are fine people. It's what the media said. It's what the Democrats said. It's what Biden said. That's it. That sticks. Then there's the percentage of them that got to see the full quote, which I would think is less than half. I would say 20%. So then the argument becomes quite quickly, what's the next argument? No, Trump specifically condemned not. Put your Democrat hat on. What's the very next argument you make? You say, Democrat says, Trump said Nazis are good people. You're like, no, he didn't. Here's the quote. He specifically condemns Nazis. And they say, okay, but what's the next thing they say? It's predictable. What's the very next thing? Does anyone have a guess? I've debated this dozens of times. I know what happens. Trump said Nazis are good people. No, he didn't. And they say, well, we can't wait all day, so I'll just say. Plus, it might be behind for some people. The next thing they say is, well, who were the good people then? If they were fine people, who were they? What kind of fine people march with Nazis? So the vast majority of them, 80%, just think, yep, Trump was quoted as saying Nazis were fine people. Then those that you could break through, they say, well, there were no fine people. Fine people wouldn't march with Nazis. And that's it. Now, I could spend, as I'm about to do here, a bunch of time showing you why that's bullshit. For a litany of reasons. Not today, old Joe. For a litany of reasons, I could show you why that's bullshit. But there's a problem. It is a long argument. It requires some depth to talk about the complete circumstance that went around these quotes that Trump made. And basically, Democrats that are predisposed to hating Trump, and those that are their mouthpieces, who we've already talked about, that don't give a shit about the truth. They only give a shit about winning. They know that people have short attention spans. Trump said Nazis are good people. If that's repeated enough, huge swaths of your people are going to believe it. Good, you win then. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. And then, if someone who's intelligent enough to push back on you like me comes along, then you just move on to the next. Yeah, well, there clearly were no good people. Show me the good person. Show me. So therefore, Trump just said, oh, I'm not saying Nazis, but he said some people were good people and they were all Nazis. That means he said Nazis were good people. And that's it. It doesn't matter how articulate I am. Like, listen, let me show you why you're wrong. It's not going to matter. So we're going to pick on one person specifically. How about that? Let's pick on Hutch. This is Hutch. Hutch, here's Rob Noor. Rob Noor has 4,800 followers on X. Not too shabby. Here's Hutch. Hutch has 328,000 followers. 328,000, okay? Now, I put this post up. I said, look, I haven't jumped on the Biden didn't speak out quick enough trend, and I haven't said a lot about Biden's or the left-wing rhetoric being the cause of the assassination attempt. But Biden once more bringing up the fine people hoax, trying to gaslight people into thinking Trump said Nazis were fine people, proves this whole unity message is bullshit. Fuck this guy. Now, step one, and you see this with a lot of people, including people like Pisco. Notice how Hutch doesn't respond. See this? He doesn't respond. A lot of people responded, but Hutch didn't respond. No, what Hutch did was he quote posted. Now, there's many reasons for this, but this is, particularly when you are a bigger person with a bigger audience, it ensures engagement from the bubble that is your audience. And it also ensures that those people don't get to see the other people that were responding on the initial post. So that's what happens. So you could see in this specific comment, Hutch has 364 likes, 23,000 views, My response is going to get 1,000 views. So by the mere nature that he quote tweeted it, he ensures the engagement will be more people see his post from his audience than my response. Which is entirely the point, right? It's the entire point of saying Trump said Nazis were good people. Because you know the people in your bubble will believe it and they won't see elsewise. Yes, that's Mullet. Maybe it's the same guy. So I just wanted to start there. Here's Hutch's response. He says, Rob, if Antifa groups planned a protest in Chicago and conservatives showed up, and one Antifa guy drove his car into a crowd of conservatives, killing one, and then Biden said they were fine people in the Antifa camp, but he condemns Antifa, how would you react? Now, what this is an admission by Hutch. He full well knows that Joe Biden is lying and gaslighting people, and that the media has gaslit people into saying Trump said Nazis were fine people. He knows it. He can't defend why this lie would be said right now after an assassination attempt when Biden's directly asked about that assassination attempt and chooses to spread this hoax. He can't respond. He has no response to that. Nothing to say on that. So he deflects. And his deflection is making this argument. But there were no fine people there. Right? Argument 1, Trump said Nazis were fine people. No, he didn't. He specifically condemned them. Argument 2, but there were no fine people there, so therefore he said Nazis were fine people. But Hutch is doing it in a way where he's using a hypothetical. Now, it sounds reasonable. Hey, I'm just asking a hypothetical. Rob, what if Antifa had a rally and one of them ran over a conservative? And Biden said, I condemn Antifa, but there were fine people there. How would you react? To even engage with the hypothetical, which is so off point, and an obvious deflection attempt, means that you've already lost the optic war. Particularly when tens of thousands of more people are going to see his post than mine anyways. Engaging with the hypothetical is already an optical victory for him. It's already accomplished the design task. To let his audience know, don't look at the man behind the curtain. Ignore the fact that Biden's calling for unity and is spreading this hoax, saying directly when asked about the assassination attempt, well, Trump said Nazis were fine people. Ignore that. Now you can feel comforting with this deflection. That's what he's doing. And I correctly call out, look, this is just a bullshit deflection. He goes, but Rob, you're confident in your arguments. Please answer the hypothetical. Please, can you? Can you answer the hypothetical? Can you? First off, for here I'll answer the hypothetical. Why do I even have to have a hypothetical? Can you all think of a time where violent left-wingers were engaging in acts of violence? And not just Joe Biden, but damn near the entirety of the Democratic Party said they're mostly fine people? Can you think of that? Do we need a hypothetical, or did that happen? Yes or no? Can anyone come up with something? Maybe it happened one time, or two, or thousands? So why even need the hypothetical? Second, yes, I did say correctly at that point that clearly the Democrats as a movement were underplaying that violence. Had it been one riot, one left-wing riot, and there's a bunch of good people there who I may disagree with that are peacefully protesting for Black Lives Matter, and there's a bunch of shitty people there, and some people get in a riot, and Joe Biden came out and said, look, there were good people on both sides of that, and there were bad people on both sides. I would have been okay with it. In fact, I would have been like, well, of course they always equivocate and say, oh, when our side does something, we'll say both sides do it. Let's condemn all. But that's the universally accepted standard. Congressman Gifford gets shot. Right-wing rhetoric caused it, says Bernie Sanders and the entirety of the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders supporters shoot Steve Scalise. We all need to tone down our rhetoric. You see how that works? If it's a left-wing person or a Democrat that's harmed, then it's the right-wing rhetoric's fault. If it's a right-wing person that gets hurt, it's we all need to tone down our rhetoric. You see how that works? importantly, let's accept that maybe he could say, Rob is somewhat of a hypocrite. You'd be a little pissed about that. Would it be fair to say that Biden said Antifa are good people? No, that would still be a lie on my part. Would the media have done that? Of course not. They didn't. Would Hutch have called them out? Of course not. He didn't. Show me one post where Hutch made that said this is outrageous. Democrats are condemning the violence. But clearly they're saying there's good people that were there and that's outrageous. But Rob, what kind of good people would march with Nazis? What kind of good people would march with people burning down police stations? Okay, maybe you went and didn't expect it, but once they started burning down, clearly no one associated with that group anymore. Oh, that's right, Kamala Harris put a bail fund out for them. If Hutch and the Democrats and Joe Biden are so upset that Trump said not that there were fine people on both sides, why aren't they 10 times more upset that Kamala Harris put a bail fund up at a riot where left-wing terrorists burned down a police station? That's way worse. That's way worse. To say, I think they're fine people, you might say that's bad. But to put a bail fund up for them? Way worse. One is saying nice things about a terrible group. The other is actually helping them. Yeah, I debated Hutch recently. So I bring that point up. I'm like, oh, bail fund. Yeah, what if he'd put a bail fund out? Oh, wait, that was your VP. Can you show me you condemning that? Or did you say, no, she meant the good people there. That's what she meant. The good people. The bail fund wasn't for the people that lit the station on fire. It wasn't for them. It was for the good people. A lot of those people were peaceful protesters. They were good. Huh, isn't that weird? Isn't that weird how that works, Hutch? Of course he never made those statements. What do you think Hutch's answer is going to be? You're deflecting. Don't deflect. We can talk about that later. Answer my hypothetical. Why can't you answer it? So in other words, I put a post up showing Joe Biden engaged in this hoax again. Hutch can't respond to that, so he decides to deflect with a hypothetical. I answer that hypothetical by saying, Hutch, you're full of shit. You're grandstanding because Kamala Harris did worse and you didn't say shit. And his response is, that's a deflection. I'm not going to answer. That's a guy that doesn't give a shit. That's a guy that will blatantly lie. He don't give a fuck. You would think that you would be like, I got a bigger audience. This is dangerous rhetoric that Biden's saying right after an assassination attempt. I should say, yeah, okay, I don't think it's a big deal, but Biden shouldn't have said that. But no, he doubles down. Be right back. Spam calls. Elder Drazi did reach out to me and say he wants to have a COVID conversation at some point. We'll have that at some point. I'm busy this week. Wick said that he would have a conversation with me that was on that panel at some point. I haven't talked to Wick this week. Not to sound flippant conservative carnage, but I've had several people ask me this. Yes, COVID's an important conversation. It certainly is. We should never forget it. Yes, the conversation about Biden's cognitive decline is an important conversation. We should never forget it. The president just had an assassination attempt. That's kind of the priority of things to discuss about now. So I don't know that I'm going to be setting up a debate on lockdowns this week to reference that. I just don't think it's going to happen this week. So maybe in the future. And then, of course, I could show you other interactions I've had with Hutch on X. For example, when it came out in court that the FBI finally admitted that the Hunter Biden laptop was real, and I put a post out saying, the laptop's real, we were gaslit, this probably affected the election. Remember, the election was only 40,000 votes in 3 states, and now we find out that there was this lie by the former intel agents and the media that censored people talking correctly about this story. Probably was enough to swing 40,000 votes. It's pretty damning. Imagine that you were on the left and you believed that. And you're concerned about democracy. You would say, fuck, I was lied to? That's terrible. You know what Hutch's response was? Hutch's response was, and you could look this up, his response was, quote, "Sorry Hunter's veiny cock couldn't get you guys over the finish line." You know what that answer is? That answer is, fuck you, we lied, we don't care. We won, bitch. Fuck off. That's what that is. That answer is, we don't give a shit about the truth. All that matters is winning. Yeah, we lied to you. We lied right in front of your fucking face and we knew it. We absolutely knew it. Sure, it's came out now. We don't give a fuck. Election over. Too late now, buddy. Tough shit. Then when I called him out and he goes, fine. Then why didn't the House panel put subpoenas out? Why didn't they? So there. Literally within 24 hours they put subpoenas out. I'm like, okay, now what? Fine. Then take them to trial. Okay, but Merrick Garland won't. Merrick Garland's not going to file charges. Good. I'm glad he doesn't. There's not enough there. You see? You see how quick we went down that? Let's answer Hutch's hypothetical. Trump said Nazis were fine people. No, he didn't. Okay, but who there was a fine person? Okay. Let's answer. Looking for this article. This was from a Washington Post article. There couldn't have been any fine people. Everyone that was there had to be terrible. This was from directly like a day or two after. Good people could go to Charlottesville, said Michelle Piercy, a night shift worker from Wichita, Kansas retirement home, who drove all night with the conservative group that opposed the planned removal of the statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. After listening to Mr. Trump on Tuesday, she said it was as if he had channeled her and her friends, all gun-loving defenders of free speech, she said, who had no interest in standing with Nazis or white supremacists. It's almost like he talked to one of our people. Conservatives like Ms. Piercy, who have grown only more emboldened after Charlottesville, believe that the political and media elite hold them and Mr. Trump to a harsh double standard that demands they answer for the sins of a radical racist fringe. They largely accept Mr. Trump's contention that these same forces are using Charlottesville as an excuse to undermine his presidency and extension their vote. Do we have any proof that she was a Nazi? Is she lying? Thank you, Lord of the Nerds, for the $5. Says, please ask one of these guys, considering they supported leftists sieging courthouses, why would you care about these traitors? Think about their elections. It's a solid point. So there's a good person. Want to know who else was there? The ACLU was there. Defending the rights of the free speech people on the side of the people that were against the statues being removed. Are the ACLU Nazis? Are they Nazi sympathizers? Or are they good people? Just curious. Huh. But I thought there were no good people. Well, forget about all that. Well, if they saw Nazis there, they should have left. No, fuck all that. For example, I remember doing a live stream where right-wing friends of mine went to, in 2020, there was a pro-gun rally in Virginia that was really big. And I'm talking to them live as they're streaming, and they're like, there are these radical black militants here. Wow, what do you think about that? I'm like, hey, man. If they're down with the cause of the Second Amendment and you agree that you don't have to say they're good people, they have the right to protest as well. Should they have left? Should they have said, oh my God, these people are disgusting, I'm leaving? Some may. Some may say, no, fuck that. I don't agree with their beliefs. I'm just against the central thing. the removal of the statues, or the Second Amendment. But let's go further. Let's go further into explaining why the framing of this entire thing has been horseshit gaslighting. Charlottesville occurs. I don't have the exact dates because it's actually incredibly difficult to use a search engine to find the speeches that I'm going to talk about. How many speeches did Trump give about Charlottesville? Does anyone know? In the direct aftermath, and like the week following, how many times did Trump get in front of cameras and talk about Charlottesville? Does anyone have a guess? He just gave that one speech, right? He said Nazis are fine people. No, it wasn't one. It was 3. He gave 3 speeches. 3. In fact, the one everyone knows where he said there were fine people on both sides wasn't a speech on Charlottesville. It was a press conference where he was talking about one of his economic plans. But the media went fucking nuts. And unlike Joe Biden, who doesn't take questions from the media, Trump often did, off the cuff. So here's the full picture as to what happens. Charlottesville occurs. Immediately, the narrative is being pushed. These are alt-right Nazis that are Trump supporters, and they murdered someone. Blood is on Trump's hands. Trump must come out and disavow. Disavow. Now, this is basically the old communist struggle session. You have to constantly hang your head in shame and go, it's my fault. I disavow. I disavow. But do you disavow more? Yes, please. I disavow more. But they liked you. Oh my God, I hate them. I'm so sorry. But they did it in your name. I'm sorry. Please. No, I'm sorry. Now, this shit's never done. Never done to the Democrats. Bernie Sanders, one of your supporters shot Steve Scalise. Nancy Pelosi, you guys said that Obamacare being removed would kill tens of thousands. And some guy believed it and shot at Steve Scalise. Do you disavow? I'm sorry, our rhetoric was bad. But do you really disavow? Yes, it's our fault. He was one of our own. We're so sorry. No, of course not. In fact, when someone asked Nancy Pelosi, she freaked the fuck out. How dare you try to blame our rhetoric? Are people out there asking Joe Biden today, your rhetoric caused this disavow? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. You're right, it was my rhetoric. Are they doing that? Is that the media's? Of course not. But that's what they did. It's not my room. It's an office that I have at work, and that's a mini fridge that I keep water in. She did tell Tapper to calm down, and he did calm down. But that's not him. So let's look. So now you understand the circumstance of what's going on. So I don't have the specific date, but I believe this was the day or the day after Charlottesville. And I can't find, believe it or not, because you want to know where I found this? Was from a thread that I did in August 17th, 2017 on Above Top Secret. There's my name, Grambler. Here's my comments. October 7th, 2017. Here's Trump's first remarks on this. And here's the remarks, and here's the link. When I click the link, whoops, page not found. So I put these quotes into a search engine. I can't find the statements. I can't find an article. Which in itself is interesting, isn't it? That the media didn't seem very interesting in saving these comments. So this isn't a full list of the comments, but this is basically the statement Trump, pre-written statement that Trump got in front of cameras, I believe, or released about Charlottesville. I think it was in front of cameras. Let's read it. But we're closely following the terrible events unfolding in Charlottesville, Virginia. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides. It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. This has been going on for a long, long time. It has no place in America. What is vital now is a swift restoration of law and order and the protection of innocent lives. No citizen should ever fear for their safety and security in our society, and no child should ever be afraid to go outside and play or to be with their parents or have a good time. I just got off the phone with Governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, and we agreed that the hate and division must stop, and must stop right now. We have to come together as Americans with love for our nation and true affection, really, and I'm saying this so strongly, true affection for each other. Above all else, we must remember this truth. No matter our color, creed, religion, or political party, we are all Americans first. We love our country. We love our God. We love our flag. We're proud of our country. We're proud of who we are. So we want to get the situation straightened out in Charlottesville, and we want to study it, and we want to see what we're doing wrong as a country, where things like this could happen. My administration is restoring the sacred bonds of loyalty between this nation and its citizens. But our citizens must also restore the bonds of trust and loyalty between one another. We must love each other, respect each other, and cherish our history and future together. So important. We have to respect each other. Ideally, we have to love each other. And again, going back to Charlottesville, we have to heal the wounds of our country. There are wounds that have been going on for really a long time. And I thought, and everybody wants it to heal, and it will heal. And we're going to make every effort possible to make sure the healing procedure goes as quickly as possible. That's Trump's speech. Condemning bigotry, condemning all the acts of violence, the disgusting display of racism and bigotry there. But wait a minute. How many people do you think, I think that was from the Oval, how many people are aware of that speech? Now, if you heard Joe Biden give that same speech, let's change some words around, shall we? We're closely following the attempt on Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania. We condemn in strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. On many sides. It's going on for a long time. Not Joe Biden, not Donald Trump. This has been going on for a long, long time. It has no place in America. What's vital now is a swift restoration of law and order and the protection of innocent lives. No citizen or candidate should ever fear for their safety in our society. No one should be afraid to go to a political rally. I just got off the phone with Trump's team and with the people in Pennsylvania, and we agree that the division must stop, and must stop right now. We have to come together as Americans. If Joe Biden gives that speech, is there anyone in the fucking Democratic media that's going to say, whoa, he said both sides? Whoa! Does that mean you really support this? No! Not one! Not Lester Holt, not Jake Tapper, not Rachel Maddow. They would all be praising it. They would say, what a great speech. Yes, now is not the time to focus on violent rhetoric just from the Democrats. It's a time to heal as a country and say it's gotten out of hand on a lot of sides, and now's the time to come together. Every one of us know that's what the narrative would be, because that's what the narrative is. And yet, Trump gives that speech and the fucking national media loses their mind. Why didn't he specifically condemn Nazis? Why didn't he specifically condemn white supremacists? Oh, he's trying to make it about both sides, but it was just his supporters. That was the feeding frenzy that was Charlottesville after his statement. That's where we lived. So Trump then has to give another statement. He has to give speech number 2. Because that one wasn't good enough, because he didn't directly call them out by name. That's what we were told. And when I bring this up and I show people this, that's what they say. Well, he didn't say the KKK was bad. He didn't say Nazis were bad. He said he condemned the displays of racism, bigotry, and hatred. Not enough. He didn't specifically name them. Okay, now we're on to speech number 2. So this is like 2 or 3 days after the Charlottesville attack. This one I actually found the source for. New York Times, August 14th, 2017. Trump, thank you. I'm in Washington today to meet my economic team about trade policy and major tax cut reforms. We're negotiating trade deals and making them good for the American worker, and it's about time. Our economy's strong, stock market, unemployment, blah, blah. But based on the events that took place over the weekend in Charlottesville, I'd like to provide the nation with an update on the federal response to the horrific attack and the violence that was witnessed by everyone. I just met with FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Sessions. The Department of Justice has opened a civil rights investigation into the deadly car attack that killed 1 innocent American and wounded 20 others. To anyone who acted criminally in this weekend's racist violence, you will be held fully accountable. Justice will be delivered. And as I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And I've said many times before, no matter the color of our skin, we all live under the same laws. We salute the same great flag. And we're all made by the same almighty God. We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite in the condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that brought us together as Americans. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its names are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. We are a nation founded on the truth that all of us are created equal. We are equal in the eyes of our Creator. We are equal under the law, and we are equal under our Constitution. Those who spread violence in the name of bigotry strike at the very core of America. 2 days ago, a young American woman, Heather Heyer, was tragically killed. Her death fills us with grief, and we send her family our thoughts, prayers, and loves. We also mourn 2 Virginia state troopers who died in service to their community, their commonwealth, and their countries. Trooper Jay Cullen and Burke Bates exemplify the very best of America, and our heart goes out to their family, their friends, and every member of law enforcement. These 3 fallen Americans embody the goodness and decency of our nation. In times such as these, America has always shown its true character, responding to hate with love, division, and unity and violence, with an unwavering resolve for justice. As a candidate, I promise to restore law and order in this country. Our federal government agencies following through with that pledge. We will spare no resource in fighting so that every American child can grow up free from fear and violence. We will defend and protect the sacred rights of all Americans. We will work together so that every citizen in this blessed land is free to follow their dreams, their hearts, and express love and loyalty. Thank you and God bless. Wait a minute, what's that? Not only does he, again, specifically spend almost the entire first half of this condemning the racist violence and racism, he specifically names the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups as groups that he is decrying and condemning. So surely that was enough, right, for the media to say, okay, now he specifically called them out by names. It took 2 days, but he called them out by names, right? Surely that was their argument. No! Of course not! Of course they said, it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's rhetoric. Why won't he condemn racism? Why won't he condemn white nationalists? Now, did you see my interactions with this ex-ghost guy earlier? I say, ex-ghost, why won't you condemn white racism? He'd say, what? Why won't you condemn racism? Why won't you condemn the neo-Nazis? He'd, what? What are you talking about? Why won't you condemn them? Well, okay, I condemn them. But you waited. That wasn't your first response. When someone asks you, do you condemn Nazis? You say, yes, I condemn Nazis. And you didn't. Why the hesitation? I had no idea why the fuck you were asking me. Oh, so you're deflecting. You're making excuses for the fact that you didn't immediately say that you condemn Nazis. Okay, I'm sorry. I condemn Nazis. Okay, do you condemn Nazis? Yeah, I just said that. Oh, so instead of saying, yes, clearly I condemn Nazis, you're pointing back saying you did it before. But that seems vague. Why don't you do it now? Okay, I guess. Oh, sorry, I'll condemn neo-Nazis. Thank you very much. And by the way, do you condemn Nazis? I just said that. Why do you keep asking me? Oh, so now you're unwilling to condemn them. You keep asking. Do you see how this works? You see how this fucking works? Because what the media that's supposed to be journalists are trying to do is gaslight the American people. Nazi Trump, 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 Nazi Trump. Oh, Trump didn't say he condemned that 17th time. He said, I'm tired of getting asked this fucking question. Oh, that means he's supporting Nazis. That's it. That's what someone like Hutch does. Gaslights his fucking audience. That's what they do. So far we have 2 speeches. He directly called out racism, bigotry, the racist violence that occurred. Said we need to come together, just like Democrats do after everything. And no one like Hutch or Joe Biden or Rachel Maddow or Jake Tapper ever says, what do you mean both sides do it? Never say. Didn't do it after Steve Scalise. Didn't do it after the assassination attempt on Trump. Didn't do it after the assassination attempt on Kavanaugh. Nope. The Democrat response of we all need to tone down the rhetoric was perfectly fine. They weren't constantly badgered day after day. Why haven't you called out this group by name? Why haven't you called out these people by name? Why is the standard different? So now, we're a few days past this. We're past Charlottesville. Now we're August 15th. So I think the first speech he gave was August 13th. The second one was August 14th. That I just read to you. This is August 15th. This is a transcript that Trump gave a press conference on his tax cuts and trade policy. Here's the transcript of the question and answer portion of Trump's press conference Tuesday, August 15th at Trump Tower. The press conference itself was focused on the infrastructure reform plans to make, and then he invited questions. So he gives a press conference on infrastructure. Now he's going to take questions. Trump goes, go. Because he's not Joe Biden. He doesn't have cognitive decline. He doesn't require that the questions be pre-written and only call on by certain people. He actually, as a president, took questions from basically anyone. Question 1. Mr. President, you think these CEOs are leaving Manufacturing Council? Okay. On topic. Next question. Let me ask you, Mr. Trump, why did you wait so long to blast neo-Nazis? You see how this starts? Okay, I condemn racist hatred. I say I feel terrible. We need to have unity as a country. All sides need to tone down the rhetoric, but condemn the racism, the bigotry, the violence. Not enough. Next day. Okay, I'm specifically calling out neo-Nazis, the KKK. They're terrible. We condemn them in the strongest possible terms. And then the next day, what's the second question from the fucking press? Why did it take you so long? Trump says, I didn't wait long. I didn't wait long. You waited 2 days. I didn't wait long. 48 hours. Why do Nazis like you? Do you see the fucking game that's being played? Now remember, Trump, who unlike Joe Biden will take press conferences, this isn't scripted. This isn't him reading the teleprompter. This is a dude who is rightly fucking pissed, who keeps getting smeared as a Nazi egregiously, and's fucking tired of it. He keeps giving speeches saying, I condemn racism, I condemn Nazis, but why don't you condemn them? Why did it take you too long? So he's fucking off the cuff and he's probably pissed. So this is what he starts with. Why do Nazis like you? This is what he says. I wanted to make sure, unlike most politicians, that what I said was correct. Not to make a quick statement. The statement I made on Saturday, the first statement, was a fine statement. But you don't make statements that direct unless you know the facts. It takes a little while to get the facts. You still don't know the facts, and it's a very important process to me, and it's a very important statement. So I don't want to go quickly and make a statement for the sake of making political statements if I know the facts. Question, so you had to blank white supremacists? Trump says, in fact, I brought, and then question and audible. As I said, remember this, Saturday, we condemn the strongest possible terms this display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America, and it went on from there. Now, here's the things. Question says something, many sides. What it's saying is, but you said there were bad actors on all sides. Right? You see what they're doing? Why didn't you condemn Nazis? I did. But it wasn't fast enough. Why did it take you so long? Well, I was waiting for facts. But why do Nazis like you? Well, remember, I initially called them. But you said there were bad people on other sides. Now, brief pause here. One of the reasons that it's actually important that Trump make this argument, let me tell you what was going on. And I'm going to have some criticism for Trump here. Trump didn't look into the specific details of this that much. When I pointed out to you previously good people that were there, Trump don't know those fucking people. You think he knew that lady in her group that was there? He don't know shit about it. The truth is, Trump probably knew very little about the specific details, and that's worth criticizing. He probably should have known more details, and he's claiming he was waiting for them. I think that's bullshit. I think this is what Trump thought. Fuck, there was violence. That's terrible. I feel terrible about that. It's terrible. What was going on? Well, there was this protest about removing his statues. That's good. We shouldn't remove those statues. People have a right to be pissed. They're trying to erase our national history. Well, there was violence that occurred there, and there was mutual clashes, and then this girl got killed. It's terrible she got killed, but it was probably these damn people that show up to all the protests, and they've been violent. Up until this point, we remember that we saw violent left-wingers on college campuses like Berkeley beating the shit out of conservatives that would show up for rallies. Antifa and doing it to Patriot Prayer. It was occurring over and over. At Trump rallies, violent lefties would come to Trump rallies and start fights with people. And the media was constantly running deflection for them. Oh, Trump's violent. His people are violent. His rhetoric's violent. So Trump's like, fuck this, man. So a bunch of assholes showed up to fight a bunch of other assholes, and there were good people probably that wanted the statues and didn't want the statues, but basically a bunch of assholes fought each other, and one asshole was worse because he killed someone, and fuck him. That's it. That's what Trump was thinking. And by the way, he was right. Condemning Nazis is easy. Everyone could do it, and everyone does. The problem is, we lived through that time in 2017 where violent lefties were engaged in riots, intimidation, physical violence against their political opposition, and basically the national narrative was, I don't see it that bad. And so Trump's like, dude, can we take a fucking moment to be like, these aren't great, noble people? They showed up with ball bats and shields. This wasn't innocent ladies showing up being like, please stop your hateful rhetoric. They showed up to fight. And yes, there were good people on that side. And there were good people on the other side too. But the aggression needs to stop. It's building and building and building. That's what was going on. And the media didn't give a fuck. Then fast forward to the Summer of Love. I wonder why that was able to go for so long. Maybe because our entire national conversation for years up to that had been lionizing the violent left as, but they're noble people fighting Nazis. So that's where Trump's coming from. So anyways, we'll go back to the comments. Many sides, says the question. Trump says, excuse me, take it nice and easy. And here's the thing. When I make a statement, I like to be correct. I want the facts. This event just happened. In fact, a lot of the event didn't happen yet as we're speaking. This event just happened. Before I make a statement, I need the facts, so I don't want to rush to a statement. So making the statement was excellent. In fact, the young woman who I hear was a fantastic young woman. It was on NBC. Her mother wrote me and said that, though, I guess Twitter, social media had said the nicest things. And I very much appreciated that. And I hear she was a fine, really, actually, an incredible young woman. But her mother on Twitter thanked me for what I said. And honestly, if the press were not fake, if it was honest, the press would have said that it was very nice. But unlike you and unlike you and unlike the media, before I make a statement, I like to know the facts. Question again. Why do Nazis like you? Trump, they don't. Crosstalk. How about a couple of infrastructure questions, he says. Next question. Was it terrorism? Was that terrorism? And then someone says, the CEO of Walmart said you missed a critical opportunity. Say what? Trump says. CEO of Walmart said you missed a critical opportunity to help bring the country together. Did you? Not at all, says Trump. I think the country, look, you have to take a look. I've created 1 million jobs since I'm president. The country's booming, the stock market. We have the highest unemployment. We have the highest levels of enthusiasm. So the head of Walmart, who I know is a very nice guy, was making a political statement, question and audible. Trump says, I do it the same way. And you know why? Because I want to make sure when I make a statement, the statement's correct. And there's no way of making a correct statement that early. I had to see the facts, unlike a lot of reporters. Question, David Duke was there. Do you see how they're hitting all the talking points? You didn't condemn Nazis. Yes, I did. You didn't do it fast enough. I think I did. I did initial. Why do Nazis like you? I wanted to get the statement. But why do Nazis like you? But Walmart said that you could have brought the country together. You didn't. Well, David Duke was there. You see? Just all the high points for the Democrats. Red meat. Their intention. Even here, the media is gaslighting. Trump says, I didn't know David Duke was there. I wanted to see the facts. And the facts as they started to come out. It's very well stated. In fact, everybody said his statement was beautiful. If he would have made it sooner, it would have been good. I couldn't have made it sooner because I didn't know the facts. Frankly, people still don't know all the facts. It's very important. Excuse me. It's very important to get the facts out correctly, because if I'd made a fast statement and the first statement was made without the facts, other than what we're seeing, the second statement was made after with knowledge, with great knowledge. There are still things, there's still things people don't know. I want to make a statement with knowledge. I want to know the facts. Questions. 2 questions. Was this terrorism? And what can you tell us about your strategist, Steve Bannon? Well, I think the driver of the car is a disgrace to himself, his family, and this country. And that is what you can call terrorism. You can call it murder. You can call it whatever you want. I would just say it's the fastest one to come up with a good verdict. That's what I'd call it, because there is a question. Is it murder? Is it terrorism? And then you get into legal semantics. The driver of the car is a murderer, and what he did is horrible and inexcusable. Can you tell us what you think about Bannon? Go ahead, said Trump, because they were trying to say Bannon was alt-right and a white supremacist. Go ahead, said Trump. I would echo Maggie's questions. Bannon's come over. Trump says, I never spoke to Bannon about it. Can you tell us broadly, do you still have confidence in Steve? Well, we'll see, says Trump. Look, I like Mr. Bannon. He's a friend of mine, but Mr. Bannon came out very late. You know what? I went through 17 senators, governors, and I won all the primaries. Mr. Bannon came on later than that, and I like him. He's a good man. He's not a racist, I can tell you that. He's a good person. He actually gets very unfair press in that regard. But we'll see what happens with Mr. Bannon, but he's a good person. Question. Senator McCain's called to defend your National Security Advisor, McMaster, against these attacks. I've already done that, says Trump. And he called it on again. Senator McCain? To the alt-right saying, Trump says, Senator McCain, yes. Senator McCain, do you mean the one who voted against Obamacare? And he said, who? You mean Senator McCain that voted us to get good health care? Senator McCain said the alt-right's behind these attacks, and he linked that to the same group who perpetuated the attacks in Charlottesville. Trump, I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm sure Senator McCain must know what he's talking about, but when you say alt-right, define alt-right to me. You define it. Go ahead. Question. Well, I'm saying as senator. No, define it for me. Come on, let's go. And you can tell Trump's getting pissed. Now look at what they did here so far. They're like, you didn't condemn Nazis. Yes, I did. You didn't do it fast enough. I think I did. Why do Nazis like you? I don't think they do. David Duke was there. What about David Duke? I didn't know he was there. What about Steve Bannon? People say he's a racist. What do you think of that? alt-right did it. The alt-right, they like you. And he's like, now he's pissed. He's like, okay, then fuck it, fine. Define alt-right. Come on, define it for me. The questioner says Senator McCain defined it as the same group. Trump says, okay, what about the alt-left that came charging at them? And remember what I said? This is what Trump's going to be furious about, and he's right to be. What about the violent left? Why do we only ever talk about the violent right? Over and over and over. So finally, Trump's had it. Now, off the cuff is when he starts to make the statement that everyone's pissy about. What about the alt-left that came charging at them? Excuse me, what about the alt-left that came charging at the, alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt? Let me ask you this. What about the fact that they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging the clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do. As far as I'm concerned, that was a horrible, horrible day. Wait a minute, I'm not finished. I'm not finished, fake news. This was a horrible day. The questioner says, sir, you're not putting these protesters at the same level as neo-Nazis. Is the alt-left as bad as white space? Now they got their red meat. There you go. Finally. Say Nazis are bad. I did say Nazis are bad. Say Nazis are bad faster and stronger. Okay, I thought I said it pretty fast. Why do Nazis like you? Why is Steve Bannon a racist? Why was David Duke there? And Trump has to just be like, I know, it was bad. As soon as you say, now listen, wait a fucking minute. The other side had bad people too. That's it. That was the moment right there. As soon as he said that, that is going against the rules of the struggle session. You can't do that. You have to say, I know, it's all our fault. I'm sorry. I'm so humiliated. My God, it's just our side. It's not both sides. It's just our sides. As soon as he said, what about the violent people on the other side? That's it. Oh, so you're saying they're as bad as Nazis? Nazis? You're saying the left is as bad as Nazis? Oh, you're comparing. You see what he's doing? And that's it. That was when they had him. That was it. That was the red meat from our free press to be like, bam, we got him. We got the fucking narrative. And Trump gives them a little extra here in a moment. But that was it. If Trump would have said, you know what, press conference done, that would have been the story. Trump says left is bad as Nazis. How could anyone say anyone's as bad as Nazis? Oh my God. That's the narrative. These people were Trump supporters and now he's making excuses for them, saying the other side's just as bad. Is the alt-left as bad as white supremacy? Trump says, I'll tell you something. I watch this very closely, more closely than you people watch it. You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. By the way, that's true. And nobody wants to say that. But I'll say it right now. You had a group, and you had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit, and they were very, very violent. And that part is true. Whatever you think of Unite the Right and the Charlottesville rally, they had a permit to be there. The counter-protesters didn't. They came armed for a fucking fight. And that's what happened. By the way, the police were egregious that day in Charlottesville and basically intentionally led the two crowds into each other, which made violence inevitable. Doesn't excuse the people on the right side that committed violence. But the fact that the media, the Democrats, everyone wanted to say, nope, it's just one side, they were the problem. The other side was noble people fighting Nazis. They were peaceful, is bullshit. And that's same rhetoric that directly led to the Summer of Love, that led to things like the Chaz Zone, where people were dying and buildings were being burnt because the left had gaslit us for years that they were noble, great people fighting evil racists, and that's why they were engaged in violence. Trump says, go ahead. Question, do you think that what you call the alt-left is the same as neo-Nazi? Do you see how these questions are all just designed to be one-sentence talking points? Trump responds, those people, all of those people, excuse me, I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups, but not all of those people were neo-Nazis. Believe me, not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. Those people were also there because they wanted to protest the taking down of a statue of Robert E. Lee. Now that's the first time in this very statement where he's going to say there were fine people on both sides. He already says, I condemn the neo-Nazis. I'm not talking about, there were decent people that weren't neo-Nazis there. Question, should the statue be taken down? Excuse me. If you look at some of the groups and you see, and you'd know if you were honest reporters, which in many cases you're not, but many of those people were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. So this week it's Robert E. Lee. I noticed that Stonewall Jackson's coming to town. I wonder, is it George Washington next week? And is it Thomas Jefferson the week after? You know, you really have to ask yourself, where does it stop? By the way, Trump got made fun of for these comments and he was absolutely right. That's where it went. But to continue, but they were there to protest. Excuse me. If you take a look, the night before, they were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. Infrastructure question. Go ahead. Question. Should the statues of Lee stay up? Trump. I would say it's up to the local town, community, and federal government depending on where it's located. Question. How concerned are you about race relations in America? And do you think things have gotten better or worse since you took office? Trump. I think they got better. Look, they've been frayed for a long time. You can ask Obama because he'd make speeches about it. But I believe in the fact that I brought in and soon will bring millions of jobs or companies move to the country. I think it's a tremendous impact on race relations. I've had companies coming back to the country, blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you, you're spending a lot of money on inner cities. We're fixing inner cities. Okay. Question. Mr. President, are you putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane? See? Right back to that red meat. Trump. I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had one group on one side and you had a group on the other. And they came at each other with clubs. And it was vicious and it was horrible. And it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side. You called them the left. Whatever. You called them the left. That came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is. Question. Something both sides, sir. You said there was hatred. There was violence on both sides. Trump says, well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. If you look at it, if you look at both sides, there's blame on both sides. And I have no doubt about it. And you don't have to have any doubt about it either. And if you reported accurately, you would say, question, the neo-Nazis started this. They showed up at Charlottesville to protest. Trump says, excuse me. They didn't put themselves. You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Question. Trump says, excuse me, I saw the same pictures. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of the very important statue, renaming the park from Robert E. Lee to another name. Question. George Washington and Robert E. Lee are not the same. Trump. Well, we know George Washington was a slave owner. Was Washington a slave owner? So will Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take that down? Excuse me, are we going to take that down? What about Thomas Jefferson? Questioner. I love Jefferson. Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture. And you had bad people. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people. But you also had troublemakers. And you see them come with black outfits and with helmets and with baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in that other group. Question, who are the good people? Question, sir, I didn't understand what you're saying. Were you saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly? I just don't understand what you're saying. Do you see how it's saying? They are gaslighting. No, clearly Trump didn't say they treated white nationalists unfairly. He clearly said I condemn them. He's saying there were people other than that. You treated these people unfairly that weren't white nationalists. So you're saying we treated white nationalists unfairly? Trump says, no. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly and taking down the statue of Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day, it looked like they had some rough, very bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists. But you had a lot of people in that group who were there to innocently protest and very legally protest. Because, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this. There are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country. A horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have an infrastructure question? Infrastructure. Mr. President, you've spoken to the family of the victim of the car attack. No, I'll be reaching out, he said. When will you be reaching out? I think the statement put out, the mother's statement, I thought was a beautiful statement, and I'll tell you, it was something that I really appreciated. I thought it was terrific, and I really, under the kind of stress she's under and the heartache she's under, I thought putting out the statement to me was really something. I won't forgive it. Thank you very much. Will you go to Charlottesville? Will you check out what happened? Trump says, I own a house in Charlottesville. Does anyone know I own a house there? Where is it? Oh boy, it's in Charlottesville. You'll see a winery or something. It's a winery. I know a lot about Charlottesville. Charlottesville's a great place, and it's been very badly hurt over the past couple days. One of the largest wineries in the United States is in Charlottesville. Do you believe your words are helping to heal the country right now? What do you think needs to be done to overcome racial divides? Trump says, well, I think jobs can have a big impact if we create jobs, blah, 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 blah. Your remarks today, how do you think they'll impact the racial sort of conflict today? Trump says, people are going to be working. They're going to be making a lot of money, much more money than we thought possible. Question, your remarks today. The other thing, very important, I believe wages will go up, the economy, blah, 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 affect race relations. That was 2017. 7 years later, Donald Trump just survived an assassination attempt. The sitting president was asked about it, and he once more repeated the fucking hoax, smearing Trump as a Nazi sympathizer. 7 years later, I have to go back and read these fucking transcripts that I'll bet even my audience, 90% of you, never heard those first two speeches that Trump gave. And you didn't know the wider context of he said very fine people. Why? Why do I have to do that? Why didn't the press do that? Why did it take Snopes until 2024 to say, okay, that was false? Trump did what every generic politician does anytime it's an allegation that someone on their side committed an act of violence. That's terrible. Thoughts and prayers for the victims. There's terrible rhetoric on all sides. We need to come together and heal as a country. And unlike when every other politician says that, particularly Democrats, where the media says, yeah, that's a healing statement. The media said, you didn't condemn neo-Nazis. This is your fault. Nazis and Trump, Nazis and Trump, Nazis and Trump. So Trump gives a statement the next day and says, as I said, violence was terrible. It's bigotry. It's racism. This country's for people of all creeds and ethnicities and colors. I condemn neo-Nazis. I condemn the KKK. The media says, why did it take you 2 days? Why do Nazis love you? David Duke was there. Steve Bannon's a racist. Will you condemn Steve Bannon? Trump the next day. Okay, infrastructure bill. Questions on infrastructure. Racism. Nazi, Nazi, Nazi. Steve Bannon, David Duke, Nazi, Nazi, Trump. Now we go to Hutch's statement. Hutch sees that after an assassination attempt, again, Biden pushes the hoax. So which is Hutch's response? Well, Ron, if the Antifa had an attack, and Biden said there were fine people on both sides, what would you say, even if he was condemning Antifa? Well, that happened. That did happen. And I could give you an answer. One, there were fine people there. Second, Trump, that's nowhere near as bad as pushing a bail fund and doing all the shit the Democrats did. And third, it would still be a hoax if I said he said Antifa were fine people. That would still be a lie. But the full answer of do you know the context of what was said? Do you know what happened? How good would you do? Just out of curiosity. How good would you do? Take politics out of it. Say you're a coach of a football team. A high school football. You're a coach. There's a big brawl on the field. And your team started it. So you give a press conference afterwards. The players that did this will be held accountable. It was disgusting. That's not what we stand for. This entire league needs to tamp down the temperature. We're seeing fights like this. It's horrible. We need to understand that we're here to come together to play this game and to help these kids out. That's what it's about. Thank you very much. Why didn't you call out the specific person? Why didn't you say their specific name? What do you mean there's violence on all sides? Why didn't you take blame? Comes out the next day. Okay, number 73 in our team, Tom Smith. Yes, his behavior is completely condemned. Completely. We can't accept this. What he did to that other team was terrible. It's time for us to come together. But why did it take you 2 days to call out Tom Smith? Then the next day you're like, okay, talking about next week's opponent. No, we want to talk about last week. What about, why didn't you call out the violence? I did. I said it was terrible. We all need to, but you didn't call him out by name. I did. But why did it take you 2 days? Eventually you're going to be like, shut the fuck up! Shut up! What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, he's flying off the handle. All of a sudden he's defending the violence. He's defending it. It's fucking outrageous. How well do you think Joe Biden would stand? Joe Biden was asked last night by Lester Holt, as friendly as a fucking interviewer as you could expect for a Democrat. Hey, Mr. President, have you watched the debate? Seemed like you were confused at times. And Joe Biden immediately antagonized. Why didn't you ask about 28 times that Trump lied? Why didn't you talk about that? What about Trump's lies? Why didn't the media cover that? Imagine if Biden was asked every fucking day. It looks like someone who believed your rhetoric tried to assassinate the president. Why won't you call that out? Why do they like you? Why do they share the same ideas as you? Why is that occurring? What do you think about This person in your administration that's had violence, do you still have faith in them? How long do you think Biden would last before he'd bite the head off that reporter? And the way Trump talks off the cuff, and it's, it's so funny because this is constantly, everyone's like, I would like, this happens in sports a lot. Hey, Tom Brady, sorry you lost the game there. How do you feel? You threw that ball to your receiver there in the end zone for the last play of the game and he dropped it and you guys lost. How do you feel? What's Tom Brady's answer? Or Peyton Manning? Or Ben Roethlisberger? Or Tony Romo? Or Lamar Jackson? Or Randall Cunningham? Or Joe Montana? Or Terry Bradshaw? Or Dan Marino? Or even like fucking quarterbacks that aren't that good, right? Like Gardner Minshew. Any quarterback you could think of that made it in the NFL. I'll bet you could basically give me their answer. Game's on the line. You threw a perfect throw. Dude dropped it. What's he going to say? He's going to say, hey, the loss is on me, man. I could have done a better job putting us in position. And look, bad plays happen and stuff, but it's on me. We're going to get back in the office. We're going to do better next week as a team. That's it. Everybody knows. And it becomes boring, right? Because then you watch all these, now we have all these like sports talk shows, right? Where like Stephen A. Smith's going to be like, that's bullshit. He's pissed. He's pissed at his receivers. They keep dropping the ball, blah, 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 blah. Everybody knows that he's just given a canned, cliched answer. But then every once in a while, you'll get some athlete that's like, yeah, fuck that bum. He dropped it. That sucks. I'm tired of it. And people are like, you can't say that. What? And it's like, but you clamor for a real response. You're like, I'm tired of the cliched answers. I wish someone would stop giving pre-thought out cookie-cutter responses and tell me how they really think. Okay, here you go. Oh, you can't do that. You have to say X. We can't have it both ways. And that's one of the things, like him or hate him, about Trump that was sort of refreshing. Barack Obama was a very talented speaker, but he wasn't as good when he was off prompter. Very much sort of cliched responses, teleprompter type responses. And you might say, good, that's what I want out of a president. And that's completely fair. It is. There is a solid argument to be had that you don't want an extemporaneous president that's flying off the cuff saying shit. Got it? But that's what Trump was. And it was refreshing to me and a lot of other people, even people that hated Trump. Well, hey, you're going to hear the guys. That's what I say. In many ways, Trump was the most transparent president. Because he'll sit there for an hour. Infrastructure bill, here's what's going on, blah, blah. Bam, let's go, take questions. Bam, bam, off the cuff, about anything. Jim Acosta, let's go, fuck you. Yeah, you suck, fake news, come on, ask the question. He talked like basically a normal guy. Maybe that's not presidential, but he's telling you what he thinks. How the fuck would you, as a normal guy, if someone every day came up to you and was like, every day you punch in your time clock at work and your boss comes up to you and goes, hey, what's up there, sweet tat? How you doing today, sweet tat? Do you condemn white supremacy? Of course. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. And you punch in, hey, sweet tat, how you doing? How's the wife? Do you condemn white supremacy? Yeah? Okay, thanks. Yeah, we'll talk to you tomorrow. On about day 73, sweet tat's going to go like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why do you think the answer changed from yesterday to today? Didn't you hear the 72 days before? I didn't even fucking get rude. I said, sure. But now I'm getting fucking fed up. What are you implying? What are you trying to say here? And then they would clip that, and they'd put it all over social media and go, look at this. Sweet Tat's unwilling to condemn white supremacy. Oh, look how unhinged he is. My God. That's the sort of shit that was going on. Now look, let me finish up here. I just went through that fucking whole thing. I'd debate anyone in the country on the Trump said Nazis were fine people. Anyone. It's difficult to do on a space like X. I just went, now granted I'm wordy, but I just talked about it for over an hour, going through. Here's Trump's first speech. Here's what the media was doing. Here's his second speech. Here's what the media was doing. Here's his third speech that was supposed to be on infrastructure. Here's what the media did. Went through the whole thing. I read you articles showing there were fine people there from other side. I talked about what was going on there. how there was people, assholes on both sides that showed up for mutual combat, about how the Democrats, right, one second here. Sorry, phone call. Then you take something like this. I went through all those details. You take this. Rob, if Antifa groups planned to protest in Chicago and conservatives showed up and one day Antifa drove into a crowd of conservatives killing one and Biden said there were fine people in the Antifa camp but he condemns Antifa, how would you react? Not even responding to my post, but quote posting it with 300,000 followers so that literally more than 10... Again, just look at the tweet. Look at his interaction. 23,000 views on his. 1,000 views on my response. 23 times as many people saw his question as my response. Because instead of just responding to my initial post, he quote posted it. Because he knows his audience will see it in their little bubble. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Yay. And that's it. It's the same reason the media kept going, Mr. Trump, let me ask you about Nazis that were there. And Trump, what was your question? David Duke! Trump, what do you think about the Steve Bannon, racist? What do you think that the Nazis like you? That's the questions. That's what they're doing. They might as well just talk like that. Just fucking talk like Charlie Brown, the parent or the adults in Charlie Brown. Rump, 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 Nazi, rump, 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 like, rump, 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 Trump, rump. Trump's like, what's the fucking question here? Rump, 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 Nazis, rump, 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 refusal to condemn, rump, rump, rump. Rump, 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 David Duke, rump, 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 likes Trump, rump, 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 rump. But how do you go through what I just showed you on a fucking X post? How do you go through it? But they know that. They know it. They don't give a fuck. Just like the media in that very press conference that I just went through. They didn't give a fuck about the truth. They didn't say, oh yeah, you did condemn all hate. When Trump said, I condemned hatred, division, racial groups, blah, blah, blah. They didn't say, that's true, you did. Yeah, but do you think you should have said Nazis by name? Well, I did the next day. I wanted to make sure I had the fact what groups were, but I did the next day. Yeah, I guess it's true, you did. Yeah, you're right. And you are right. There were violent people that didn't have a permit on the other side. Yeah, you're right about that. But still, maybe we should just focus. That's not what they did, was it? Of course not. Of course. They didn't care. It wasn't about telling the news. It wasn't about factual reporting. It was about gaslighting millions of people in this country that already were predisposed to believe Trump was a monster, that Trump was a Nazi sympathizer. And it worked. It fucking worked. And one of the direct consequences of that, a direct line I think you could draw, when we later would see violence being enacted, political violence by left-wing groups, was that they felt entitled because when we saw left-wing violence in places like Charlottesville, it was praised. They're good people. They're heroes that were fighting Nazis. So later, when you're in the Chaz zone, we're good people fighting Nazis too. How did it happen? How did all these people think that violence was the answer? I wonder. And when Trump was calling it out, they were like, how dare you? Are you making a moral equivalency? What are you talking about? Galil says, I just got here. What happened? We're talking about the fact that Joe Biden, again, I can't say, so it's a hoax. It's the most damaging hoax that I can think of politically in our country. It's fucking grotesque that Joe Biden once more, again and again and again, has said the reason he ran for office was basically that Trump said Nazis were fine people, which was a hoax then. It was a hoax now. It was perpetrated by our media that literally created this story instead of reporting the news. It was damaging. It made millions of people think that their president was a Nazi sympathizer, which gaslights them to do the most incredible, heinous things against the president and against his supporters. Biden lied and said that because of this is why he decided to run for office, which is fucking disgusting that you would tell a lie like that. But all of that was already baked into the cake. Then there's an assassination attempt on Trump. Surely now cooler heads prevail. Biden's calling for unity. He's asked by Lester Holt, what do you think about the assassination attempt? And what's Biden's response?
When this happened, what was your first reaction?
My first reaction was, my God, look, there's so much violence now, the way we talk about it. I mean, the whole notion that there is this, there's no place at all for violence in politics in America. None. Zero. And we've reached a point where it's become too commonplace, not assassinations, but to talk about it. For example, the January 6th, the attack on the Capitol.
Now notice what he does. Imagine, if this was the press after Charlottesville, how they'd be treating... what do you think about the attempt on Trump's life? Oh, it's terrible. The rhetoric and violence on all these sides, blah, blah, blah. So you're saying all sides? You're refusing to condemn the violent actions against Donald Trump? You're refusing? Well, no, I'm just saying that, of course, that's terrible. I've condemned. But wait, are you making an equivalence? That people that did other things, it's the same as an assassination attempt on Trump? Why isn't Lester Holt doing that? I just read you the press conference under Trump. That's how they treated Trump. Why is it different here? Why does Biden get to say, yeah, both sides, rhetoric, blah, blah, blah. And notice, of course, he's terrible. He has cognitive decline. He's just mumbling through shit. But notice how he hits all the high points. Violence, all sides, coming together, January 6th, Charlottesville, Nazis. That's it. That's it.
Lester, I got in this race early on in 2020 for the 2020 race. I wasn't going to run again because I lost my son. I didn't feel.
Oh.
And
lest I forget, I lost my son. That's another high point he has to hit every time.
Until I watched what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. Those folks coming out of the woods with torches, carrying swastikas, singing the same Nazi bile that was accompanied by this Ku Klux Klan, and a young woman was killed. And I was a bystander. And the then president was asked, what do you think? He said, they're very fine people on both sides. Not fine people on both sides. No excuse. Zero.
He literally repeated the hoax when specifically, within 1 minute of being asked the question, hey, Trump assassination attempt on Trump's life, what do you think? Within 1 minute, he's like, Trump said Nazis were fine people, so... Fucking imagine that! Imagine that there's an attempt on Biden tomorrow. God forbid. Unlike the fucking Weasley shitbag left, I wouldn't be out here going, well... I'd say that's fucking grotesque. I don't give a shit if the person's one of my subscribers. I don't give a shit if it's my friend, it's my neighbor. Whoever did this ought to be held to the fullest account. Period. End of story. Unequivocally. Thank you, Justin, for the $5. I will keep up the good work. End of story. Well, as long as they only called for wishing that that bullet would have hit them, but I'm not calling for violence in the future, going, fuck you. But imagine that scenario where it happened. God forbid what would happen to our country. But God forbid that happened. And I would be like, oh my God, that's grotesque. And imagine Trump sits down for an interview afterwards, 48 hours, 72 hours afterwards, and they're like, what was your first thoughts, Trump, when you heard about the attempt on Biden's life? And Trump's like, it's terrible, the rhetoric's really beginning out of control on both sides, one of the reasons I ran was that I think Joe Biden hates white people, When Joe Biden said, that the millions of MAGA were against all the values of this country. That's one of the reasons I decided to run again. That's why I think it's so important I win, because he said, no, you can't say that. There aren't millions of people that are all against the values of the country. What do you think the press's narrative would have been? What do you think they would have said? Or, Lester, let me tell you, one of the reasons I'm running is because, it's terrible what happened to Biden. But, his son did work for the spy chief of China, and Joe was getting 10%, and he was selling us out to China. So, and it's like, no, that's not good. they'd be like, wait, excuse me? So I'm like, hey, Mr. President, what do you think about your opponent almost being assassinated? And you're like, yeah, that's bad, but he is a really bad guy. That's your answer? And then and in this case, it's even worse with Biden because he said a hoax. It's a fucking hoax. What do you think about the attempt on Trump's life? Oh, we need to come together, unity, and by the way, Trump says Nazis are good people. So, no, he didn't say that. Yeah, I'm saying he did. So, do with that information what you will. Attempt on Trump's life? Yeah, that's bad. He did say Nazis are good people. So, if my audience is listening, that's who I'm running against. The guy who says Nazis are good people. Oh, what was that? Someone tried to take his life? Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, really bad. Anyways, Nazis are good people. That's what he said. Hey, you're out there, you listen. Maybe you want to do something about that. I don't know. What do I know? Yeah. Anyways, time to come together. He said Nazis are good people. And the media goes, yeah. Sounds reasonable. Yeah. Thank God that Biden's presidential and he's lowering the temperature. Fuck you! Fuck you! And fuck all the people that won't call this out. Fuck them! All the ones that are going to gaslight January 6th was a violent insurrection and Trump's rhetoric. Fuck them all! They're all full of shit. Every last one of them. Everyone! Now, does that mean every Democrat? No, I'm not saying that every Democrat knows about this interview last night. And many of them truly believe that Trump said Nazis were good people. Because they're ill-informed. So they're not as culpable as the people I'm debating that know the truth. As the people in the media that know the truth. I started off and I was talking about the disadvantages that I have as someone who's advocating for my political beliefs versus the people that I interact with on these spaces. They have every institutional advantage. The FBI is almost always agreeing with them. The mainstream media, the political class, corporate America, social media. I get fucking downplayed by the algorithm. I get demonetized. I get videos removed. I have almost no audience. I have a full-time job. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to sit around and research. I have 5,000 followers on X. They have hundreds of thousands of followers on X. They have streamer after streamer after streamer that has their back. I got me. That's okay. I'll kick their ass. I go in a panel. It's 5-on-1. Don't give a shit. The moderator's on their side. Don't give a fuck. No excuses. I only bring it up to illustrate, despite all of those advantages, they still need to have the advantage of being completely unethical sacks of shit that will lie right to your face. Blatantly. They don't give a fuck. It's an optic battle, baby, and winning's all that matters. Trump said Nazis were good people. No, he didn't. Oh, I'm sorry, what's that? 80% of the audience already left and they believe me? Ha ha! And for those 20% remaining, well, there wouldn't have been good people there other than Nazis, so stuff it. Actually, let me explain the groups that were there. The ACLU, there were other groups. Up too late, they left too. So there, I win. No, there's certainly people, don't get me wrong. Andrew, Jim, Bob, Jay Dyer. Yeah, I agree, but you see the point I'm making. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. How are you going to sit there if you're someone like Hutch, who full well knows that this is a fucking hoax, and still gaslighting his audience and deflecting for Biden? What if another attempt's made on Trump's life tomorrow? And what if that person would theoretically come out and say, you know what it was? It was that fucking Trump was a Nazi, that he said Nazis were good people. What would Hutch say? He'd say the right things. Oh, it's terrible. The violence is bad, you know. Anyways, how's the race looking? Who are they going to replace Trump with? That's what he would say. And you'd be like, but you spread the hoax. You did it. You knew that not only did you spread the hoax, but you knew that there was already an attempt on Trump's life. And you still spread the hoax. While simultaneously saying we gotta turn down the temperature. That's what you did. And Hutch is just the person that I interacted with. The same would be true of everyone that's out there continuing to spread this hoax today. That's what pissed me off the most about Destiny. I'm not going to get into this too deep again because it was from my stream yesterday. But the fact that I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt at this point that I think that these are edgelord jokes. I don't think he's actually calling for my death. I don't think that he's saying that he wanted Trump shot, but maybe he did. I don't have proof either way. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt because I like debating him. That's what I'm doing. I think he's on tilt a little. He's having a bad week. You can agree or disagree with me. I don't give a fuck. That's where I'm at. I'm just giving you my honest opinions. But when I called into that panel, that Spaces, and I talked to Destiny, what's the very first thing I said? You know what I find most disgusting about you, Destiny, you sack of shit? It's not the edgy jokes. It's the fact that all of your fucking whining and crying and complaining about January 6th is performative. That's what upsets me the most. Because they played this victim. We are of the high ground, and our opponents are bloodthirsty maniacs that would use violence to steal this country. This violence is unacceptable. That's the fucking pearls they have clutched. And yet then Destiny will say, oh yeah, but political violence, totally justified. As long as it's not directed towards private individuals, totally justified. So fuck you, you're full of shit. It's the same here. I'm not going to listen to people stand on some moral high ground talking to me about the need to come together in unity and Trump's bad rhetoric that literally are taking the most inflammatory rhetoric possible. As we've already agreed, pretty much the worst thing you could convince people that someone is a Nazi. Complete bullshit, completely fabricated hoax, and use it against Trump after an assassination attempt. Fuck you. Fuck you. I don't give a shit. Fuck off. You know what you're doing. You know it. They all know it. I don't blame you, Chris. I don't blame you at all. Destiny's going to lose an awful lot of subscribers. He's going to lose an awful lot of opportunities because of his foolish, emotional, childlike fucking tantrum. Because the left... Remember the Thomas Sowell quote I always say? When you're part of a privileged class, equal treatment feels like discrimination. I've watched some Destiny streams the past couple days because I was intrigued by what was going on. Why is the media set the narrative against us? Why is the media... Republicans are never held to the same standard in the media. It's absolute fucking delusion. These people have fucking brainwashed themselves into thinking the mainstream media is out to get the Democratic Party. That Republicans control the flow of information in the narrative. It's absolutely mind-boggling to see. And they truly believe it. He was on there, he was talking to Pondering Politics, and I'm really important. Yep, they said, why aren't we focused on Trump being a threat? Why don't people know the details of the January 6th insurrection and the false elector scheme? Why don't we know? And instead we're allowing the Republicans control the media, and they're just talking about Biden's cognitive health. Hey, you dumb shits. They were talking about Biden's cognitive health because the media, who aren't journalists, were afraid that because the story that they had hid up for fucking years was now made public, that they had to save face and try to get Biden out so they could get a candidate that could win. They're not doing it because they're pro-Trump. They're doing it because they're anti-Trump, you stupid fuckers. They literally could see something and believe the inversion of the truth. Adam Dole for $10. Have I tried to get in touch with Oren McIntyre? He's great content. I think he'd be willing to have you on his podcast. Oren's the best guy at the Blaze. No, I'll need to do. The only person I know at the Blaze is Alex Stein. But I'll reach out to him. Thank you for the suggestion. I really appreciate the $10 too. So I'm just over it. I'm fucking... they're delusional. Now, being delusional isn't the same as being evil. You understand that? Or being a terrible person. You could just be wrong and be completely delusional. But what I'm saying is uniquely pissed me off today is Joe Biden, when asked specifically about the assassination attempt on Trump, brought up again the Fine People hoax. He did so knowing it's the most probable inflammatory rhetoric that could lead to Trump being attacked again. He knows that it's a lie. His audience, many of them that are streamers, know that it's a lie, and they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They don't care! They don't give a fuck! If Trump gets shot again, as long as it doesn't hurt them politically. That's it. That's all they care about. Do we win? Great. Ends always justify the means. Fine, great, whatever. That's who these people are. And they may very well win. They may. The Lester Holt clip was from... The whole interview is online. You can find... but here's the specific clip from the Nazis Good People business. Did it work? Yeah. All right, I gotta go. I don't think I'll be streaming the rest of the day, so I don't know when you'll see me again, perhaps Wednesday evening, but thank you all for being here. Again, I would be remiss if I didn't say, despite the fact that I think how shitty this is for Biden and the people that know what he did, and is again gaslighting people with this hoax, despite the fact that how shitty that is, I am not calling for any violent rhetoric against Joe Biden, any of his supporters. It would be outrageous. From the bottom of my heart, I think it's morally unacceptable. Strategically, I think it would be an incredible blunder. You're going to piss your life away if you say things out of emotion that's going to cost you your job, your family members, your friends. Please, please, please keep a cool head. I don't give a fuck if you're on the left or if you're on the right. From the bottom of my heart, I mean that. But Joe Biden is a sack of shit, and his calls for unity now fall hollow to me. I was willing to give him somewhat of the benefit of the doubt, and those that disagree with me could look at my past streams from the past few days and my post on X to see that I'm not lying. But fuck him now. When asked specifically about the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, his opponent, he doubled down on gaslighting, saying Trump said Nazis were good people. Thanks so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a fantastic day. As always, have a good one.